Alright, for this warm-up unemployment FRQ, we're going to be looking at some of the things you learned last class, and we'll use the 2006 number 3 released FRQ. So, first thing we're going to do is look at the question. The unemployment rate is an important indicator of the health of the United States economy. Alright, so we have 3A, and I went ahead and drew this to help you explain. Help explain it to you. You don't have to draw this, it's not part of the question, but I might as well introduce it to you as far as what our thought process should be. So remember to write 3 and then an A, just like the same structure they give you in the question when you do an FRQ. Assume that with the economy at full employment, that's a key for us, the government implements an expansionary fiscal policy. How does the actual employment rate how does the actual unemployment rate at the new short-run equilibrium compare with the natural rate of unemployment? So let's think about the things we know. Expansionary fiscal policy. So if we have expansionary fiscal policy, that's going to make aggregate demand increase. Because remember, government spending increase or tax decrease will lead to that expansionary policy. So now the other things in here we know. Actual unemployment and natural rate of unemployment. So I know that the natural rate of unemployment is equal to structural plus frictional unemployment. I know that actual unemployment is the natural rate of unemployment plus cyclical. Anytime we have a downturn in the business cycle, that will be our cyclical unemployment. So now, it's asking us, how does the actual unemployment rate at the new short-run equilibrium? Okay, short-run equilibrium. Equilibrium, remember, is where these two cross. Now, this is the aggregate supply and demand, so basically it's a supply and demand graph, but now it's for the whole economy. So this is short-run aggregate supply. That's aggregate demand. The word aggregate means all together. So we have prices, but done as price levels, and we have real GDP. That's output. So now what we're looking at is aggregate demand increased. We have our expansionary policy, and we always increase right and decrease left when we have a shift. So increase means up, so I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to make a new aggregate demand curve, and my new short-run equilibrium is where aggregate demand crosses supply at a new spot. So that shows me prices are going up, causes some inflation. That shows me that we had an increase from Y to Y1, and now we have a new level of GDP. So if it increases right, it means GDP went up. So if gross domestic product is going up, and product means we're making stuff, that's going to lead to unemployment decreasing. So now if I have unemployment decreasing, whenever we have full employment, that means we have a minimal amount of cyclical unemployment. So the actual rate now is going to decrease below the natural rate. So if unemployment is decreasing, that means our actual during an expansion is going to decrease. So my answer is going to be that the natural rate, the actual is lower than the natural rate of unemployment. Okay? And I abbreviated a lot of that stuff right there, but so hopefully that makes sense. I know this is a lot of explanation to just remember, if we have some kind of expansion going on, if our economy is expanding as in speeding up, we're going to lower the unemployment rate. Okay? Then just got to remember your definitions for those. All right. Now let's move on to B. They're saying assume a significant number of workers are involuntarily changed from full-time to part-time employment. Explain how this will affect the number of people who are officially classified as unemployed. So, explain. Anytime you see that, show, illustrate, draw, graph, explain. Command words mean points. Okay? So part B is going to be worth 2 points. And this question right here was only worth 1 point. Okay, so now I'm having 2 points. If you have a full-time job or part-time job, you have a job. So there's going to be no change to the unemployment rate if that happens. Now, then you have to explain. Well, my explanation is that full and part-time are both employed. So full or part-time are employed. You have to forgive my handwriting because I type all the time. I don't write. Alright, so let me adjust the screen a little bit here for you. Alright, so now we're on to part C. Assume the government reduces the level of unemployment compensation. Okay, so unemployment compensation, those are what we call automatic stabilizers. They're also called transfer payments. So that means, and right now is a great example of that, we did have lots and lots of unemployment checks going out to people out in the economy. So, part I, explain how this affects the natural rate of unemployment. Okay, so the natural rate of unemployment is going to fall. Okay, so the NRU is going to decrease. Now, why in the world would that happen? Well, if all of a sudden they reduce the level of unemployment compensation, that means the unemployment checks are not going out anymore, and that's what they're doing right now. So the idea is that that will give people an incentive to go find a job. So now our natural rate of unemployment, remember that's frictional and that's structural. So anytime you have people who chose to be out of work or their skills ran out, this is going to incentivize them to try and go find a job, perhaps. At least that's the thinking. And that actually happened lately in our economy with certain, different viewpoints of unemployment benefits. All right, so the next thing, and I marked this out on yours, use a correctly labeled graph, show how this affects the long run Phillips curve. Well, this is the long run Phillips curve. I'm going to go ahead and draw it for you. And we have, just like up here, where we had price level and GDP, the long run Phillips curve is going to be kind of a mirror of that. So instead of price levels, we use pi for inflation. Instead of GDP, we'll use unemployment. And they're a mirror because unemployment is a reflection of GDP. So the long run Phillips curve is always vertical at the natural rate of unemployment. So if we have a change to our structural or frictional amounts of unemployment, and in this case it was a decrease to the left. So that's your introduction to the long run Phillips curve. We'll get to the long run aggregate supply curve and things like that later, but hopefully that helps, and we'll be moving on to GDP today.